Hello and welcome. My name is Petra. I am a curious explorer of all things creative, and today my wish is to share with you how I use color and working in my journals as a kind of mindfulness practice. I was always so very attracted to color, and discovering watercolors was the best thing ever. The added element of the pigment floating around in water and it being such an unpredictable and free-flowing medium has always brought a sense of comfort. So, to no surprise, in my journals, in my notebooks, in my creative downtime, I often navigate towards watercolors or any other medium that allows me to have that brief little moment of grounding. In this clip here, I wanted to show you a part of my process, simply letting the pigment flow and do its thing while painting very simple and casual little flowers with a lot of free-flowing elements and just letting the medium do its thing. Quite relaxing. At a certain point, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. Why is it that I navigate towards these activities? What is it in that brief moment of calm? Why do I see it as such a grounding experience, such a calming exercise? So I searched for an answer, but I already had it all along. I just needed to confirm it. The exercise itself, the focus on simple little movements and simple elements on the page and a medium that brings joy, that's all that's enough for a little practice of mindfulness, of calming activity, of a state of flow. Honestly, sometimes it's really not about the result. It's about the act of doing it and enjoying what you are doing in that moment, letting your hand wander, your mind wander, and just letting go of control. Some time ago, I followed along a class by an amazing artist, Stephanie Ryan, and on Skillshare. And the class was called Intuitive Watercolor Florals Get Grounded. And that sounded just perfect. As soon as I saw the title of the class, I wanted to join and I followed along, and it made so much sense. It was speaking to me on a whole another level of relatability. I thoroughly enjoyed the class and all the segments and resources offered, and since then have incorporated certain elements to my own creative practice and these little mindfulness exercises, as I like to call them. And because Skillshare is kindly sponsoring this video, I have the amazing opportunity to offer the same to you to discover Skillshare and classes on the platform. If you are new to Skillshare, you can find the link in the description below that will allow you to join the platform for 1 month free access. That way you can enjoy a huge variety of content and find inspiration for your creative journey ahead. It's always a good time to invest in yourself, engage with your passions and curiosities. So this 30-day free trial that Skillshare is offering through the link in my description is a perfect way to test it out yourself. Whether the topics of self-care or relaxation or personal growth or how to approach certain creative projects interest you, I'm sure you will find something very inspirational among thousands of classes that are available on Skillshare's online learning community. In this portion of the video, I wanted to give you a quick overview of how I incorporate this, to me, mindful practice of using color, specifically watercolor, in my journals and in my everyday life. So, not every day is the same. I don't always have the time to sit down and paint on watercolor paper or do larger formats, but I still want to have that contact with color, with my art supplies, and just make a mark on my pages, even if it's just for 5 minutes, as I've realized that makes the whole experience much more pleasurable to me, and I get to enjoy that splash of color and moving the paint around, seeing the pigment flow. So I have a couple of my journals here. Some of them are daily journals, some of them are planners I use regularly, some of them are just notebooks and paper I enjoy, so I reach out to them when I feel the need. So this is a notebook with Tomoe River paper I used most over this summer, and there are some examples in here how I basically dedicated a page simply to splash color here and there. So you can see a few swatches here. Sometimes it's basically as simple as that, a couple of swatches, or testing out new colors that have this amazing shimmer and different properties. And sometimes it's more elaborate, like this, sketching a few flowers with pencil and then adding splashes of color. This one I'm particularly fond of because I did them in a time of overwhelm and cluttered mind, and I really needed a break. This took like 15 minutes, and I clearly remember letting the process and the flow of pigment and water relax me. So I wanted to keep that practice in my everyday life and any chance I can get. Some words and some color and that beautiful crinkle of Tomoe River paper I enjoy. This is probably the reason why I often use watercolors in my journals and not in sketchbooks, because of that experience. So here is my tarot journal. I actually rely more on collage here, but as color is something that's a constant in my journals, notebooks, planners, as you can see, I thoroughly enjoy very bright and very colorful pages. You can also find a lot of coloring, but maybe more with colored pencils here. So splashes of color using crayons or watercolor pencils, and then just maybe a splash of watercolor here and there. So there are no paintings here. Maybe that's important to emphasize. I don't come to this practice to make a painting, to make something. I come to this practice mainly for the process. So this is a simple background with some metallic watercolors over this title here, and that 1 minute of water flowing on the page and waiting for it to dry. It makes a difference in my day. So that's the tarot journal that's in progress. This is my Sterling Ink Common Planner. This more of a journal, let's say, to me, because I mostly use the daily pages. So sometimes, again, splashes of watercolor in the background. Sometimes it's something with a more specific topic, but as you can see, color is present everywhere and almost on every page. This is a sketch I did just recently. And yeah, as I said before, I feel it's very important for me to have the process of watching paint flow in my journals. And lastly, I have this little old Hobonichi. It's from 2022, kindly gifted to me by a lady I met online, as she was not using it. And here particularly, it's sometimes it's watercolor, but I mainly play around with ink and pencils here. So in a way, I'm swatching my inks, my fountain pen inks, and then adding a few details here and there. So don't mind the dates, they are all wrong because this is an old expired journal, but as the Tomoe River paper is wonderful, it's beautiful to do these kind of exercises in this notebook. So these are different kinds of inks and some pencils, some swatches, and again focus is on the process. As you can see, I didn't come a long way. This is just a notebook I grab here and there and not regularly. If I have like 10-15 minutes I want to set aside to play with my inks and pencils, I grab this. And now a little bit about my supplies. This is a Delphonics pouch and it's currently packed with so many things, and I should get around to clean this up a bit, but I know where everything is, I swear. So when I talk about colored pencils, these are the ones I use. These are the regular kind, they are not water soluble, they are polychromos. And these are the water soluble colored pencils, Museum Aquarelle by Carandash. And they are beautifully soluble and very pigmented. I have just a few and I really enjoy them. And then for the main part, watercolor palettes. I have a bigger variety of watercolor palettes because I have been using and collecting them for years and years, so things kind of accumulated. I don't use all of them all of the time. I usually, for a certain period of time, focus on one palette and use that, but it gives me the freedom to switch things around. This is kind of like a main palette that holds all of my half pans, and it covers a large variety of colors I enjoy. So this is like a very versatile palette where I can cover all of my basics, let's say, my favorite colors. This is just a tiny little watercolor palette that I basically set up in a way that I always have something that would fall into a category of yellow, red, blue and green. Again, yellow, red, blue and green, and yellow, red, blue and green, but in different versions. So it's like a color scheme going around, and it gives me the possibility to use this row to make a cohesive piece with watercolors that go well together without any mixing, because the mixing area is so tiny and I just dip and go. Then I have this gorgeous palette filled with handmade watercolors. They are mostly from Claire Chi and from the creative kinds. Top and bottom row are metallics, and the mid row it's like a neutral palette created by all handmade watercolors. So all neutrals, and these all colors work so well together. You can make an entire piece of painting, a background, and everything will match so perfectly, no mixing required. I love my convenience colors because most usually I just want to dip my brush and go onto the page and make a splash, make a flower, make a mark, draw a moth or something, and I don't have to fuss about mixing colors. But when I do want to mix colors, I use the big palette you saw in the previous clip of me drawing those flowy flowers. That's like my mixing palette. And lastly, my most recent acquisition is this Art Toolkit folio palette. I am still setting it up. It's still not done. As you can see, there are some empty places. Again, I'm going by this logic of every row is a theme. So these are blues, these are pastels. This is again another neutrals palette, and I'm hoping to fill this with neon watercolors. I've been dying to try them and use them in my journals, so I'm waiting for my order to arrive and put a little bit of neons here for that splash of very bright neon colors. So yeah, all except my mixing palette. That's it for the watercolors. And that's what I use mostly. For the brushes, some are here, some are on my desk scattered around, a couple of travel brushes. But if I'm doing it in my journals and if I have 5 minutes, I grab my water brushes and just go. Sometimes the simpler the better, and yeah, this works perfectly on Tomorrow River paper and on any kind of sketchbook paper. Fountain pens, eraser, pencil, mechanical pencil, and stuff like that. So all in here. And yeah, that's basically it. This always sits on my desk, so whenever there's a little slot of time I can commit to my practice, I know I can find everything here and everything ready for me to go. So to wrap this up, again, I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I'm very fortunate to be able to share this content with you. Again, if you are new to Skillshare, please don't miss this opportunity and check out the link in the description below. You can join Skillshare for a limited time with no fee and enjoy the benefits of exploring yourself. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to touch on any other subject around watercolors or how I use my journals in the videos to come. And thank you so much for joining. Bye.